Hello, everyone. It's what an honor and pleasure to be here. I have to self-acclaim at the beginning. I am enthusiastic about virtual learning. So that's what I used to do a lot even before COVID, and during COVID, it's just been such a fun and escalating experience to connect with people virtually. So today, my plan is like this. I'm going to share two big areas in terms of why we do networking virtually and how we do networking virtually. I will just go through some of my thoughts, and then hopefully we save a lot of time for Q&A and discussion in the first half hour that we will spend together. So feel free, save up your questions and type in chat or raise your hands. I would very much like to have this discussion going on. So first, let me ask you a few questions, and I would like you to enter your answer in chat. The first question is, what do you like about virtual networking? So if I can see some answers, just short answers, some words, whatever come to your mind. First, what do you like about virtual networking? If you want to enter that in chat. Right? Yeah, so it's convenient. It helps us to connect with people who do not live in the same city. It is easier. You can connect with people whenever and, doesn't have to mind about distance. Right. So the convenience, the fast cost reduction, definitely. I can't agree more with that. I've actually heard a lot of stories from executives pre-COVID. They need to travel sometimes 24 hours to the other end of the world to have a meeting. And now that's not going to happen. And they're actually quite happy to save that time and money. Okay, now let me understand a little bit more. What do you think is challenging for virtual networking? Could be either from personal experience or could be something you observe from others. What could be challenging for people to connect with each other virtually? Right? Technology is still not reliable. Sometimes we have bad internet connection, and when that happens, it's very annoying, actually. Right? Zoom fatigue is actually a real thing. We hear people talk about it all the time. And we can be really exhausted having virtual meetings all the time. Okay, let's close personal connection, schedule problems. Okay, interesting. Those are very, very interesting answers. Good to have. So let's talk about that. So the reason I'm asking these questions is I think when we talk about virtual networking, the first question I always would like to ask myself is, it's important to set your mind, to have that mindset switch that we do not want to use virtual networking as a complete replacement of in-person meeting. Because these two types actually, you can't completely recreate. There's certain things with in-person meeting that we just don't have in virtual. But with virtual meeting, there's a lot of benefits, like we discussed just now, that the in-person meeting don't have. So we should enjoy that benefit to the fullest. And what I observe typically when people have that mindset switch, it really helps to smooth and to create a very perfect experience virtually. So that's why I want to say that as a first point to get it out. Now, when we understand why we do virtual networking, to help build connections in a cost-effective way, to manage your team in a very effective way. So, and then to actually get to know new contacts, like what we have here with our mentor and mentee relationship. So now let's talk about how we do it. So there's a couple of best practice that I observed. First, to start with very simple, easy logistic questions. It is really helpful in a virtual networking event that you have the camera on. The reason is actually it is how you communicate to the other party through not only just your voice, but the whole picture, including background, including how you dress, including how your eyes is aligned with the camera, and you're almost, talking into the camera like you're looking at that person. And also, it is very important to set up the attention. We all know how it works. We all like multitasking. We know that, sometimes we have 2, even 3 screens in front of us. So when we talk virtually, we can be talking and listening at one time and then typing away on the other hand. So all those distractions actually are roadblockers for effective virtual networking. And we should try to set attention straight. And when you talk to the other person in a virtual setup, the other person get your full attention. So that is, in order, in terms of a setup, that is easy. That is important to get that right. Okay. Now, the second thing I want to share in terms of how to network virtually is what are the 3 important things that connect people. So this is something that I learned very recently, and I think it just speaks to me, and it's a very important lesson I want to share with everybody. What are the 3 type of things really connect people together? So if you reflect on your relationship with a trusted friend, or even with someone that you just met, you can think about things like, oh, wow, we really clicked, right? Like we just hit it off. So typically, there's 3 type of things at work here. So the first one is you have some shared experience. So for example, here, we can talk about SSE. We all went there either as a student or we spent time there. We can talk about, our favorite professors, the courses that we like. So any type of shared experiences really connect people together. And if you can find out, countries you visited, vacations, maybe you spent vacation at the same time, etc. So all those experience is good human connector. The second thing really connects people together, values. So we sometimes, one very typical example is Google, for example. If you look at how they attract and hire talent, they are looking for people who share the same value as their core values of the company. And I know a lot of other very successful companies do that. And interpersonally, we have some set of values that we treasure the most as well. And for example, I've heard from my boss that she mentioned to me once, she said, well, Sarah, every time I work with you, it just makes me keep wanting to deliver more and deliver the best to our clients. So that is a shared value that we have in common, and that makes us really connect with each other. So if you can find some common values that you can share with other people, that really helps with the network. Okay, last but also the most tricky one, and sometimes it is hard for people to do, is emotions. Emotions connect us together. So it's not just about very successful emotions or successful stories. Sometimes vulnerability is even a stronger connector for people. And that is sometimes also, I've seen a lot of successful people have trouble to show vulnerability and to share their failures with others. So there's a whole discussion regarding how to encourage leader actually to be authentic and to actually admit there are things that you don't know and there's things that you need help with. So in the past year, I think we've seen a lot of great examples from leaders from all around the world being authentic, being honest. There's a lot of uncertainty ahead of us. There's a lot of things we need to work out together. So to be able to open and to share not only what made you successful, but what made you vulnerable, the emotions really connect people together. So those are the three things I think very important when we connect with people virtually. You think about, what are the common experience? What are the common values? What are the emotions that you can share with each other? Okay, now I'm just going to do one last thing before I stop talking and take questions. So one last thing in terms of how to network virtually that I want to share with everybody is about a win-win mentality. I think this is very typical when I speak with our students, when I mentor our SSE students. I think I got asked a lot of questions. So how do I network? How do I connect with someone senior than me? Right? So when we think about students, when they need to talk to recruiters from a company, talk to a senior executive from a company, or connect with someone, alumni from the school, a lot of times that they feel they are the junior one and they don't have so much to offer. So I think the perspective taking here is very important, because you should not only think about what I want to say to the other person, but also consider what the other person wants to hear. So in such a situation, normally I will advise the students that I work with, well, think about maybe there's something that you can offer to that senior executive. In a lot of companies, senior executive, they actually have a reverse mentoring program where a younger student or younger employee can actually become a mentor for the senior person. And they bring a lot of passion, they bring a lot of knowledge about virtual, about how to work remotely. They bring a lot of things that contribute to the relationship. So when we can switch in our mind that win-win mindset, it makes it much easier to have a successful connection through in the virtual world. So that is what I'm thinking to share as a conversation starter. I would also like to recommend, let me see if it shares properly. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so this is what I will put there. We talked about to have a mindset switch, that virtual networking has its own merit, and it is not supposed to replace meeting in person, but we are enjoying the full benefits of virtual networking. We talk about to square away some of the basic logistics and keep full attention to the other person you're talking to. And to understand the three things that build human connection: experience, values, and emotions. And to think win-win, instead of just talking about this is what I want, to think about what the other person wants. I also put 2 books there as a reading suggestion. This is something I find particularly important and interesting when I work with students: Designing Your Life, and also The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So with that being said, let me stop sharing and then ask everyone if you have any questions that top of your mind when they come to virtual networking. And I would love to have that conversation.
Yeah, does any of you have any questions for Sara? I mean, there aren't that many here, so I think you can just unmute yourself and ask away, or if you prefer, just write it in the chat. Okay, then I can sort of start it off then.
Yeah.
So when, say, networking at events or virtual events, do you have any suggestions on how to best follow up?
Wow, that is a good question, Anna. I think to build relationship, it's really you are building relationship one at a time. It's not about quantity. It's really about the quality of the relationship. So follow up is actually essential. I think there's a couple ways that you can follow up. One is that when you have a really good conversation with someone, I would say this is particularly useful for students, for example, when they are doing the information interview, as a senior person in a company. After a really good conversation, you can always ask this key question. Is there anyone else you can recommend me to speak to on this topic or particular this subject? That always leads you with more people that you can approach. Another thing to follow up is actually at the end of the meeting, what we call almost like a dentist treat. So before you leave a dentist office, the dentist will always won't let you go unless you have a particular date scheduled for the next 6 months. So you can copy that dentist trick and have a follow-up date already scheduled before the end of this meeting. Well, things like, okay, we had a very good conversation today. How about in 3 months, in 4 months, we check in with each other again to connect again, to catch up. What are the new development? What are the new things we learned? Follow the conversation. So I find those are pretty helpful follow-up techniques.